with the 24 elements of the material world, and they're all material. The real Sankhya philosophy is concerned with 26 elements of the material world, which is all the material, 24, and the 25th material element are the living entities, and the 26th material, 26th element is uh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, therefore, without understanding the real Sankhya philosophy, people are misled and they only engage in materialistic activities. So now, Devahuti, uh, she wants to take shelter of her own son. Uh, and she says, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. Well, this is the most important, let's say, knowledge that we can learn. This relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. This is not taught in schools today, uh, but it's the most important thing to know. What is that? The relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. Uh, so, what is the relationship between man and woman? Well, first of all, we have to understand that identifying oneself as a man or a woman is a temporary thing. One can be a man in this life and a woman in the next life, or one can be a man in this life and an animal in the next life, or someone can be a woman in this life and a man in the next life. So, uh, this identification as man and woman is not fixed. Uh, that unless one becomes Krishna conscious, uh, this man woman relationship is fluid. Someone can be a man in this life, and in the next life, they can be a woman. And a woman can be a man in the next life. So, as long as one has material attachments, this fluid man woman relationship is going on. And then it's same thing with matter and spirit. Uh, as long as the living entities is in false consciousness, uh, they uh, associate with matter as if that is the only thing in life. But if they become enlightened, then they understand the real relationship between matter and spirit. Matter is something that is subordinate to the soul, and the soul that's an illusion thinks that matter is everything and avoids understanding the position of the spirit or the soul. So there are a lot of these in other words, uh, when a person begins to understand the correct relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter, they become educated. So let's read the purport. It says, Sankhya philosophy, as is well known, deals with Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti means the material nature or who is uh, enjoyed, and Purusha is the enjoyer. Purusha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or anyone who imitates the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an enjoyer. And Prakriti means nature. In this material world, material nature is being exploited by the Purushas, or the living entities. The intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the Prakriti and Purusha, or the enjoyed and enjoyer, and the enjoyer, is called samsara, or the material entanglement. Devahuti wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and she found the suitable weapon in Kapila Muni. The tree of material existence is explained in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as an asvata tree whose root is upwards and whose branches are downwards. It is recommended there that one has to cut the root of this material existential tree with the axe of detachment. What is the attachment? The attachment involves Prakriti and Purusha. The living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. Since the conditioned soul takes material nature to be the object of his enjoyment, and he takes the position of the enjoyer, he is therefore called Purusha. Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. The living entities, in the guises of men and women, are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha, because Purusha means enjoyer, and Prakriti means enjoyed. In this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm sorry, the real Purusha, comma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are Prakriti. Prakriti means the enjoyed. The living entities are considered Prakriti. In Bhagavad Gita, matter is analyzed as apara, or inferior nature, whereas beyond this inferior nature, there's another superior nature, the living entities. Living entities are also Prakriti, or enjoyed, but under the spell of Maya, the living entities are falsely trying to take the position of enjoyers. That is the cause of samsara bandha, or conditional life. Devahuti wanted to get out of conditional life and place herself in full surrender. The Lord is Saranya, which means the only worthy personality to whom one can fully surrender, because he is full of all opulences. If anyone actually wants relief, the best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is also described here as Sad Dharma Vidam Varishtam. This indicates that of all the transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharma is sometimes translated as religion, but that is not exactly the meaning. Dharma actually means that which one can not give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the dharma, or nature of fire. Similarly, saddharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. Well, just like we've been saying, Srila Prabhupada is trying to teach us the highest level of devotional service. And obviously, there are different levels of devotional service. But the highest level of devotional service is pure love and devotion for Krishna without any adulteration of uh, karma or um, uh, well, uh, what are the adulterations? The adulterations are when you have people engaged in uh, lesser types of so-called devotional service. Uh, the the highest level of devotional service is pure love and devotion for Krishna, without any adulteration of mixed uh, purposes. Mixed purposes are someone can be engaged in devotional service, but still be attached to different types of sense gratification and or different levels of sense gratification. So the when it says here that eternal occupation, similarly, sadharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service. And therefore, he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. Well, now we can understand why Srila Prabhupada is not uh, teaching something that is watered down. He's teaching how to achieve the highest level of devotional service and love for Krishna. Whereas there are many other, let's say, gurus or let's say people who are considered to be spiritual authorities that are not actually aiming for the highest level of devotional service and love for Krishna. They make different, let's say, statements that are lesser than the highest level of pure devotional service. So some people say, well, it's okay to uh, engage in material activities. You have to be a social, you have to associate with this or with that. And they make excuses for loosening the strictness of following strictly the principles of love and devotion for Krishna. But there should not be any, what you would say is a compromise when you're engaged in devotional service. You should aim for the highest level of devotional service, which is complete surrender to Radha and Krishna, and not at all being attracted to anything else. The attraction to the material world is basically Maya. Anything that you're attracted to in the material world uh, means that you're under the control of the material nature. So a devotee is only interested in Krishna consciousness. So this is exemplified in the story of uh, uh, Haridas Thakur and the prostitute that came to see him. She was employed by a person who was, envious of Haridas Thakur. So he hired this prostitute to make him fall down. And she was a very pretty young woman. And she tried to make Haridas fall down, but coming in contact with Haridas, she eventually surrendered to him and became a devotee. So that was that is the, let's say, the quintessential uh, issue in life. Uh, what are we attracted by? Well, mundane people are attracted by illicit sex and gambling and intoxication, so forth. But a devotee is only attracted by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, when there's a saying, fools run in where angels fear to tread. You can look that up. It's very good. Fools run in where angels fear to tread. So, Haridas Thakur was like an angel. So when the lady came to make him fall down, he was not interested at all. But that is not enough. He was able to make her into a devotee. You see, one thing would be, oh, well, to ignore her. But Haridas Thakur was very merciful. Like, he didn't start shouting at her or beat her with a stick or anything like that. He kept saying, well, I have to finish my rounds. So if I was not able to give you satisfaction, you come again tomorrow, and then we'll see. So every time she came back, Haridas was still chanting his rounds because he chants more than 23 uh, hours a day. So and the girl would always fall asleep waiting for him to finish his rounds. And then eventually, because she was hearing him chant so much, she became overwhelmed and surrendered to him and became a devotee. See? That's why devotees should always chant loudly. They shouldn't chant silently. Because if you chant silently, no one else would hear. So they won't be, let's say, uh, attracted to the holy name because someone is chanting silently. But we should chant loud enough that uh, the person chanting can hear his own uh, chanting, and someone near him can also hear the chanting. This way, you're being merciful. So Haridas Thakur was chanting out loud, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And the prostitute was hearing it. And eventually, after 3 days, she surrendered to him and became a devotee. That's why chanting out loud is very important. Right? I always get spooked by people that don't chant out loud. They're just sitting there, and moving their lips a little bit, but you can't hear anything. Sometimes they don't even move their lips. That's really not recommended. That means that someone hasn't been trained properly in Krishna consciousness. We should always be able to chant loud enough that we can hear and people near us can also hear. Right? Of course, nobody listens to these things. They just, speculate and they think, oh, this is right. I'll keep quiet. Chant quietly. No, if you're merciful, you should chant loud enough that people can hear. You don't want to scream it in their ears, but you should have very nice chanting. It should be appealing to people that hear a person chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Now they can recognize who you are. They can recognize that you're a devotee and you're chanting the names of God. And if they don't know what it is, they can ask you, say, what are you doing? What does this mean? And now, because of their curiosity, now you have a chance to preach to them. But if you remain silent, they're not going to ask you any questions. And they don't know exactly, they don't have the chance to become Krishna conscious. Okay, so here it says, the eternal occupation is engagement in transcendental loving service to the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. Okay, so the Sankhya Yoga uh, is about the materialistic Sankhya deals only with the 24 elements in the material world. It's like the scientists, they only deal with 24 elements in the material world. But the real Sankhya is concerned with 25th element and the 26th element. 25th element is this living entity, and the 26th element is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so then there's possibility of loving devotion for Krishna. But if you're simply involved with the 24 elements of material nature, then you're in this state of Maya, thinking that that is the 24 elements is explaining reality. 24 elements are under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if you only deal with 24 elements, then you're in a state of Maya, because you think that you are the Purusha. But when you're dealing with 25th element, which is living entity, 26th element is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, now is a question of surrender to the Lord. If you only deal with 24 elements, you think that you're the Lord, and then you can, do some experiments and discover things and patent them and become famous and so forth. But when the 26 elements are understood, then you become a devotee and you surrender to the Lord. And if you only deal with the 24 material elements, you're materialist. And if you deal with the 25th element, that's the living entities, then you're, altruistic, let's put it like that. But when you deal with 26 elements, 26th element is Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead. Now you become a devotee. Okay, so, and this is a very important statement in this purport. It says, Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. Well, what is it that we cannot give up? Well, if you look at, and study society, you'll see that everyone is serving someone. Everyone is serving someone. And when you don't have someone to serve, you still serve a dog or a cat. So service is the eternal occupation of the living entity. But now, if you serve Maya, then that is corrupted. The service is corrupted. But if you serve Krishna, now you've become a real human being, and you are engaged in service of the Lord, which means that you will eventually go back to Godhead and serve eternally. So that this definition here is very interesting. It says, Dharma means that which one cannot give up. Well, what is it that one cannot give up? Well, whether you're a pure devotee or whether you're a demon, you're always going to be a servant to something. So that is our Dharma, is serving. When we're serving Maya, we're in illusion. When we're serving Krishna, we've come to our real position as a devotee. And but you cannot stop service. Everybody's serving somebody. A husband is serving the wife serving the husband and wife are serving their kids, and so forth. And you have no one to serve, you buy a dog or a cat, and you're serving the dog, you're serving the cat. So people are always engaged in some kind of service to someone or something. So that is the Dharma, that which one cannot give up. So we can never give up a service. Even thieves, they're engaged in some kind of service, right? And when a thief gets caught and he said, well, I was only doing this because I wanted to maintain my family. All right, well, that's service. Or, I was stealing this, I was trying to serve my girlfriend or boyfriend. So there's always the question of service. Without serving, you're not really a person. Uh, so that's why it says here, Dharma is sometimes translated as religion, but that is not exactly the meaning. Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the dharma or nature of fire. Similarly, sad dharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service. And therefore, he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. So there are many people that are engaged in service. In fact, everybody is serving something or someone, but they're not necessarily serving Krishna. So therefore, someone like Kapila Muni comes, or, or Prabhupada comes, and teaches us who is the right person to serve. That means that the majority of people in the world are serving not the right person. They're not serving the right person. Therefore, the devotees come and they help us understand who is the correct person to serve. The correct person to serve is Krishna, right? But we don't know that. We get confused or we're ignorant. So therefore, devotees will come and they will teach who is the right person to serve. Service is there. Everybody is serving someone or something. That cannot be stopped because that is what you would call the dharma. And how does Prabhupada say define dharma? That which one cannot give up. So, what is the thing that one cannot give up? A servant, a living entity cannot give up. It's service. So we see even in the animal world, the the she dog serves the baby dog, right? So everybody is serving somebody, whether they're human beings or animals. And ultimately, the greatest person to serve is Krishna. But that takes time to understand. Uh, there was a boy, he was very, very poor, but he saw that people were going to the grocer and buying things. So one day he went to the grocer. He was very poor and went to the grocer and said, "Sir, I will work for you for free." He said, "Oh, you work for free?" He said, "Yes." So the grocer gave him a broom. He said, "Okay, now you sweep the store and it's outside." So the boy kept coming every day and was working for free, sweeping the floor and everything. And after about a week, the grocer said to the boy, said, where do you what is your where do you live?" The boy said, "Where do I live? I live on the streets." He said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Do you have a family?" He said, "No." Uh, and but the boy was coming every day and working for free, 8, 10 hours. So eventually, the grocer felt sorry for the boy. He said, "Well, I have a shed in the back of the store. Would you like to sleep there?" And the boy said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Then if you're hungry, I'll give you some food to eat." And the boy said, "Okay." So now the boy's situation changed because he came to work free for the grocer. And so now he had a place to stay and he had some food. And he kept working like that for a long time. And but the boy saw that the grocer was going once a month to see the governor, and he was paying taxes to the governor and bowing down to him and so forth. The boy sort of followed him one day to see where he was going. He kept going once a month. So then the boy, after some time, asked the his boss. He said, "Could you recommend me to become a servant of the governor?" And the grocer said, "Well, because you've been such a faithful servant for me, I will do that." Uh, and then now the boy is working for the governor. So now he's living in a much nicer place. He's eating much better food, and he has a much better place to stay. But then he saw that once a month the governor would leave and stay away for a day or two and come back. So he followed him once, and then he saw that the governor was going out into the forest, and there was an ashram of devotees, and he was bowing down to the devotees and offering them presents and things, dakshin, and listening to their lectures. So now the poor boy understood, wait a minute, I should become a servant of these devotees. Now these are the best people to serve, because the governor himself is serving them. So now he became a devotee, and that was, let's say, the optimal, uh, let's say, achievement for him, right? But it took time. He was serving different people and always trying to see if this is the best person to serve. But then he learned that the best person to serve are devotees. Yes. Because not only he'll have a place to stay, he'll have something to eat, but he also can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death and the association of devotees. He was not going to be liberated by serving this person or that person, but by serving the devotees, he had a chance to be not only taken care of in this lifetime, but also being able to achieve eternal life. So, therefore, serving the devotees is the best thing to do, the best service. Service is going to be there in every case, right? In every situation. Everyone is a servant to someone or something. But when you decide to serve Krishna, that is the real Dharma. Dharma means that which one cannot give up. Well, that is service. You cannot give up. Everyone's a servant. You know, if you have no one to serve, you serve the dog. You buy a dog and start serving the dogs. But the best person to serve, of course, is Krishna. And it takes time for people to understand that. Okay, so Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the Dharma, or nature of fire. Similarly, Sad Dharma means the eternal occupation. The eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. So if someone studies, so many years and becomes a doctor, and then he starts serving patients, and someone else becomes a devotee, and now he's serving uh, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everybody is serving. You can't stop serving. That's the Dharma. something that you cannot give up. But when you serve Krishna, that's the highest principle of Dharma. And when you serve a dog, that's like the lowest principle of Dharma. But service is the Dharma. Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up. Okay. And that is inseparable from oneself. Okay. Are there any questions about that? So here it says that so beyond the inferior nature, there's another superior nature, the living entities. Living entities are also prakriti or enjoyed, but under the spell of Maya, the living entities are falsely trying to take the position of enjoyers. That is the cause of samsara bandha, or conditional life. Devahuti wanted to get out of conditional life and place herself in full surrender. The Lord is Saranya, which means the only worthy personality to whom one can fully surrender, because he is full of all opulences. If anyone actually wants relief, the best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what we are teaching in Krishna consciousness. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or Radha and Krishna. The Lord is also described here as Sad Dharma Vidam Varistam. This indicates that of all transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharma is something translated as religion, but that is not exactly the meaning. Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the Dharma, or nature of fire. Similarly, Saddharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. So the idea of this Dharma, which means that which one cannot give up. Well, what is it that they can't give up? They can't give up service. But instead of serving Krishna, they're serving so many other things or people. But when one desires to serve only Krishna, then he's attained the summum bonum of Dharma, or the best Dharma or activity. Uh, and uh, uh, and that's inseparable from oneself. Uh, a devotee cannot go through life by not serving. A devotee has to serve. He has to serve Krishna. He has to serve the devotees. He has to serve humanity also. He can't give up serving. And what is the goal of the serving? Is to help people understand their relationship with Krishna. This indicates that of all transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there it is. That's our takeaway today. That this indicates that of all transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of God. Now, this is not being taught in school. They're talking about you serve you serve your own lusty desires, or you serve mundane people. That is not service. That is not the goal of life. Just like Elon Musk now, he's saying, everyone should get into lithium. What do you call it? Lithium purification, so you can sell it and make a lot of money. Well, that's not the service that is recommended by here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you're going to serve something or someone, it shouldn't be lithium, and it shouldn't be materialistic people like Mr. Um, Elon Musk. It should be serving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything Elon Musk is going to advise to you is something that he will benefit from, right, materially. But if you accept his, so-called advice, you'll end up staying in the process of birth and death. But if we hear from devotees about Krishna and decide to serve Krishna rather than serving lithium, Musk is saying, "Oh, you have to serve lithium." We don't want to. Why should we serve lithium? That's a materialistic element. Oh, you'll make a lot of money. Yeah, but that means that we're serving lithium in order to make a lot of money. But that means now that the real thing we're serving is money, right? How is that going to help us? It's not going to help us become free from the cycle of birth and death. So his advice is actually nonsense. You know. Okay, so he's one of the richest men in the world. So what? He's still going to be born. He's going to get sick. And eventually he's going to die. So that doesn't make him the most successful person. The most successful person is one who attains eternal life, uh, and but not by any medical invention or some kind of drug or something like that. It's by pure devotion to Krishna. So the solution to birth and death has already been explained by Krishna 5,000 years ago, right? They're still looking, everybody's looking at how to increase their duration of life and ultimately how to become immortal, right? But that was all solved 5,000 years ago when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. It's all explained in the book Bhagavad Gita, right? But no, they ignore all of that and they want to do it their way. Their way is no way. Right? Their way is no way. So this is the tragedy today that people not interested in Shastra. They're not interested in hearing from genuine devotees. They want to do it their way. Their way is no way. That's our new motto, Their way is no way. Krishna's way is the real way. Right? Okay. So are there any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
One question. Here it says, similarly, Sadharma means eternal occupation.
Yes.
So is the Sadharma same as Sanatan Dharma?
Sadharma, it's eternal occupation. Yes.
We can call it Sanatan Dharma, the same thing.
Sanatan Dharma is the duty of every living entity. Yeah, it's the same thing. Sanatan means eternal duty. Yeah. So Sadharma. Yeah. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
I just wanted to say Sat means that is eternal.
Yeah.
So Sanatan is also.
Sanatan is yeah, I don't know. But Sat and Asat we have read. Sat is temporary.
Right.
So the other duties are all temporary. But this one is
eternal. The Sadharma is devotional service to Krishna. Okay, so Dharma is sometimes translated as religion, but that is not exactly the meaning. Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from everyone, from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the dharma, or nature of fire. Similarly, sad dharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. There you are. Sad dharma. Sad means eternal. Dharma means your occupational duty. So the sad dharma is about loving service, transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that's what we should be aiming for, not the asat dharma. We should be engaged in eternal occupation of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Okay, any questions anybody has?
Any questions online? There's some comment. No.
That is also mentioned, Maharaj, that Jiva is a Rupa Nitya Krishna. So,
Yes. Yes. Nitya Das. We should be the eternal servant of the Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing Prabhupada's explanation of where the attachment actually comes. It's kind of maybe understood in different ways, like attachment. We try to think about attachment in a practical way, but conceptually, the attachment involves Prakriti and Purusha. So the tendency to enjoy and dominate the Prakriti, that's living entities are trying to lord it over material nature, and that's where the attachment comes.
Well, we falsely assume the position of enjoyer.
Right.
That's just about everybody, men and women.
Yeah.
Women is supposed to be enjoyed by men, but now women want to be the enjoyer also. So everybody's making this mistake of wanting to be the enjoyer, and they get caught in the trap of Maya. No, the thing that people don't want to do is surrender. They don't want to surrender. Why? Because they don't think that there's anybody greater than themselves. As soon as someone accepts that there's someone greater than them, then it doesn't mean that they're Krishna conscious, but they're on the path of becoming Krishna conscious because they admit that there's someone greater than them. Now, there are different levels of greater people, but when they arrive at the conclusion the greatest person is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's when they become devotees. Otherwise, they're going to, take the advice of Elon Musk and start purchasing lithium. You see, he makes a speech, and his speech is all about lithium. Purchasing lithium and getting into the business of lithium so they can make more money.
Yeah, so that he can sell more of his cars.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. He's a businessman, and he's starting many different businesses. Doesn't just have one business. He's trying to go to the moon, and also so many other things. As soon as every week he comes up with a new business.
Mhm.
You can imagine how bankrupt he is, spiritually. Instead of coming up with a new way of surrendering himself to Krishna every week, he's coming up with new ways to make more money. That's what That's what his preoccupation is. Different ways of making more money. And he's good at it. Very good at it. But it's not going to help him at the moment of death. He didn't realize that the best invention or the best new way of doing things is to become a devotee. You know, maybe he'll realize one day. Maybe he has the potential to realize, but the way he's going, it doesn't look like he's going to get there. Because he's a very clever guy. You know, he's always finding out new ways to trick people to make him rich. So now his preaching is lithium. Now get into the lithium business. That's his advice to people. And of course, he's got people following him. So because he got people following him, he's convinced that he's doing the right thing. Just like Hitler, he had so many people following him. So he was convinced that he was doing the right thing. But actually, it was the wrong thing, not only for the people, but for him also.
Right.
So because, you know, Elon Musk can come up with new ways to get people to invest in his businesses, he's convinced that he's doing the right thing.
Mm. So it's working against his own progress.
Yeah, he's not acting in the right way for his own best interest. He thinks he is, but actually, it's not going to help him at the moment of death. All right. Well, thank you very much. So our takeaway today, Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the Dharma, or nature of fire. Similarly, Saddharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So the Dharma of the living entity is you cannot give up work. You cannot give up serving something. And then the Saddharma, or the eternal Dharma, is serving Krishna. Surrendering oneself and serving Krishna. So everyone has Dharma. Everyone has some Dharma. They're serving something. They have nothing to serve. They serve the dog. They serve the cat. But when they arrive at understanding that they should serve Krishna, then it's Saddharma, eternal Dharma, eternal occupational duty. But everyone is serving someone or something. They can't stop because it's their Dharma. And it's not, Dharma is not religion. Dharma means that which one cannot give up. Well, what is it that one cannot give up? Serving someone or something. So right now, Elon Musk is serving lithium. So he'll always come up with something to serve so that he can make money. But the day he decides to serve Krishna, now he's come to the right understanding of life. Haribol, Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.